I can be quite impulsive. I go through different hobbies. I go through different trends, different this, that, everything. And I think that plays into my music a bit as well.
Thanks everyone for coming out. Welcome to Producer Pioneers. This is a series collaboration between Classic Album Sundays and Resident Advisor. It's kindly supported by Danley Soundlab and Audio Technica. Today we're speaking with Flava D. It's quite safe to say Flava D is someone who's explored multiple genres and sounds across her career, from grime, rap, bassline, house, and more recently drum and bass. And done them all particularly well, I'd like to say as well. We're going to kind of explore this in a sort of chronological order, go through some of her productions and a couple of her influences as well. So everyone please make some noise for Flava D, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Also, thank you everyone that's come as well, appreciate it.
So let's just start at the beginning, because I read somewhere that you were making tunes on a keyboard at like 5 years old.
Yeah, so it all began sort of accidentally. I think it was like Christmas. My mum bought me one of those tiny battery keyboards, like the little Casio ones. And so that was me on the kitchen floor when dinner was being made, just plonking away on the keys. And then I think that's when my fascination grew. And then it just went from there. I'd graduate to bigger keyboards as the years went by.
Did you ever have any formal training, or was it just like...
No. Even now, if someone asks me what key is that tune, I can't tell you. I have no idea.
Everything is by ear?
Everything, yeah, by ear.
So it went from like toy keyboards to, was there a biting point where it's like, okay, this is serious, like I think I want my life to be in music?
I think I always kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do, especially in secondary school. I remember, you know, when it's the last year and everyone has the assembly, tell the teacher what you want to be in life, and all my friends were like, I want to be a hairdresser or engineer. I said I want to be a music producer. So
At what age was that?
15. And
wow.
No one really clapped. I think they were a bit like, oh, okay. So yeah, I always knew that I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how. And then when I was 16, that's when I first started actually learning and got Cubase.
Yeah. And were you just focused? Like, was there other entry points into music? I heard you used to breakdance.
Yeah, I did. So I think if I didn't get into production, maybe I'd be like a superstar breakdancer now or something. But yeah, when I was 16, I was working in a record shop, and so when I was breakdancing, my boss, he was producing a lot behind the scenes, and then I just saw what he was doing one day, and I was like, what's that? And he said, Ableton. I asked, can he burn me off a copy? So he did. I took it home, and then that's pretty much where it started. He didn't really teach me much. I learnt it myself, and then for a good 3 years, that was me being a hermit in my bedroom, stopped the dancing, and then I just knew that was like my destiny.
And at this point, I guess it was probably pre-YouTube tutorials, it was just
Yeah, there was nothing. I didn't even have, you know, broadband where I had to top it up like a little plug-in thing, pay as you go, T-Mobile, and I couldn't even stream on that. It was literally just to send an email cost me about £10. I got 6 emails off of that. And just, you know, trying to network on MySpace, and MC saying, can you send me that tune? I'm like, okay, let me top up my dongle first. Yeah, mad. So, there's been a lot of changes in the last 10 years.
That initial period where you first got your copy of Ableton in the record store, did you take to it quickly, or was it a very frustrating, like, trial of hardship of kind of getting to where you wanted to be?
It had a lot of trial and error. I mean, even to this day, I'm still learning shortcuts that have been there for the last 15 years and I didn't even know. So I think because of my brain type, I get very hyper-focused. So anything I get into, like, I want to master it in 3 months, and if I don't, I throw a paddy. So it's kind of... I got very, very addicted, and I spent a lot of time on it. I didn't even go out clubbing, drinking for 3 years straight, and yeah, just sort of learning everything from scratch, like very back to front. But yeah, 3 years of doing that, I wouldn't change it.
And what kind of stuff were you making at that time?
So I originally started making hip-hop instrumentals, actually. So not a lot of people are aware, but I made a lot of hip-hop with Black the Ripper. So R.I.P. Samson, if you know. Yeah, we hit it off, and we used to talk on MSN. So back then it was MySpace, and then your way of interacting was just MSN. So I started doing that, and then eventually I started making grime, because I had Channel U. So back then, in Bournemouth, there was no pirate radio.
Also, rest in peace.
Yeah, oh my God. So yeah, Channel U was like my gateway into really like, wow, what is this music? It's like, I loved garage, but then grime was just nothing I'd seen or heard of before, especially in Bournemouth. So yeah, that was the big change for me, and that changed my whole direction.
And then what was your sort of entry point into grime music?
MySpace.
MySpace.
Yeah. So I think the first established MC at that time that actually gave me a chance. So I was messaging everyone, like More Fire Crew, all the people that were, had a name back then on Channel U. So Fumin, if you know your grime, then you know who Fumin is. He was the first guy to vocal one of my tunes, and then he made a video online, put it on YouTube. It got a bit of rotation. Logan Sama played it, and then once you get that Kiss FM play, it's like, oh my God, I've made it. And then before you know it, you get a few MCs like, oh, you made that beat, can you send me something? And then that's how it started, and my name started getting about that way.
Were you mainly focusing on trying to make music for vocalists at that time?
Yeah, I was. I've always been making music for myself, just at home, just out of boredom or expression, or just for fun, because that's what I love doing. But at that time, that was my main focus, yeah. And like I saw it as a way to get my name out there. And like every tune that I got vocaled, I would say to the MC, if there's one thing you can do, I'll give you this free beat. Can you just say my name on the intro, like big up Flava D or produced by Flava D? And so I just saw it as a way to promote myself.
Did that actually happen?
No, for a long time it didn't. And then that's why I started putting this sound in all my tunes. So it's, if you listen to a lot of my tunes, I think I've put in nearly every single beat I've ever made. It's like a little swish effect noise that echoes. So that originally started because I thought, well, if no one's going to big me up, I'm going to have my little signature sound so people can hear it and be like, oh, that's a Flava D beat. And so, yeah, the first guy that actually did it was Getz. And I remember when he shouted me out on the tune, I was like, yes, finally.
Made it.
Yeah, and he was one of my favourite MCs as well, so that made me happy.
It must be frustrating sort of navigating into this scene, especially at a young age, and maybe not getting that sort of recognition, because it's a very like MC-focused genre.
Yeah.
Was that something that was like relatively hard to navigate, and also like it was quite a boys' club at that time as well? Yeah,
it was extremely male-dominated, and even in recent years, it still is that way. But especially back then, I think, you see me, just this blonde little girl that's like making the kind of music I was making, and I think some people didn't really want to take me seriously at first, but then they heard the music, and I don't know, I definitely had to sort of climb the ranks and earn my stripes.
Do you think there's stuff you've learned along the way, or maybe even advice you'd give to women producers who do have to navigate an often male-dominated scene or community or genre, because you've done so well and kind of, earned your stripes and kind of risen and become established in not just one, but like multiple different genres of kind of UK dance and bass music?
Yeah.
It must have been, there must have been challenges there that you've learned along the way.
Yeah, I think, I can only speak from my own experience, but just don't compromise your style too much to make what you think will work, because I think people respect you when you come with something a bit unique, and they can see like, you're not just trying to like fast track your way into the scene. You got something about you, and I think just the way you carry yourself as well. Like for me, just back then, when especially in grime, because it is such a boisterous environment, I think I'd like to talk less and just do more, and just keep myself to myself. Like for a long time, people thought Flava D was a man just because I was so low key. In it, Eliza, like up to 5 years ago, I'd get a tweet every day like, Flava D's a girl. So I was just really low key and just made sure like my music was kind of everywhere for a while, and that's just what worked for me, I guess. It's hard to say.
And do you think at that time were you still outside of London, or?
Yeah, I was. So
did that also play a part in sort of like the difficulty of navigating quite London-centric?
Yeah, I'd say so. So I was born in Bournemouth. I lived in Bournemouth up until the age of 18. So when I was 19, that's sort of when I started becoming kind of a name in grime in the producer scene, at least. And I eventually moved to Kent. So I moved to Maidstone for 2 years, and that was kind of like my step closer to being in London, but not quite there yet. And then when I was 22, that's when I moved to London full time. That's where I've been the last 10 years. And so even moving to Kent, it was easier. It's an hour away from London. I got to meet some of the people, met Wiley, met Fumin, and got some videos online, like Link Up TV. And it was good to actually meet people, and I think then people took me more seriously as well.
What made the jump for you to finally move it? Was that when you were sort of earning a certain amount, or what sort of, or were you having day jobs at this time, or?
No, actually. So a big reason why I actually got to move was because of Wiley. So yeah, when I was back on MySpace days, so when I was starting to make a name for myself, still living in Bournemouth, I think I would have been 19 at this point, and yeah, I messaged Wiley a few times on MySpace because, top dog, and it was my goal to try and get him to vocal a beat. And one day he actually replied, and he just said, yeah, ring me, put his number. And so 19-year-old me, I'm like...
Is this a joke?
Yeah, literally that. And got my house phone. And I actually rang him, and he was just told me, yeah, this is what we're going to do, send me some tunes. And then, he vocaled a couple. And then he was the first person to ever actually pay me for my instrumentals. So, and back then, that just blew me away. And financially, I wasn't in the best place. So what I was able to do through that was think of how can I get out of Bournemouth, get closer to London. So I do owe that to Wiley for that support.
Yeah. And do you think moving to London sort of had a big change in sort of the progression of your career?
Yeah, I'd say so. Just from networking, just being in the bubble of feeling, like London, there's nothing like it. There's so many different scenes going on. It's hard to not get inspired and just feel like you want to be a part of something or be involved because there's so much opportunities here. So it definitely played a huge role in my creative process.
Yeah. And I guess this was at a point probably not like today where that sort of like real life connection as opposed to just like communicating online was actually probably really vital in sort of... Yeah, definitely. And just me building confidence in networking as well, because I'd just been a bedroom hermit, sat on my floor, cross-legged on my PC, making beats. So I had no real experience with meeting some of these characters. So in more ways than one, it was really beneficial. Yeah. In terms of some of the songs we're going to play today, we're going to start off with Hold On, right?
Yeah, so that's my first official signed release. That was in 2013, I think.
On the Butters label.
Yeah, and it's also my first...
Shout out to Eliza and Skilliam.
Yes, Elijah Skilliam, big up, my brothers. So yeah, this was my first sort of track where I went from grime into garage. So it's quite a big one for me.
Talk about the sort of how that came about, how you ended up linking with the Butters crew, and even sort of the change in direction in sound. Like, what kind of led to this moment?
So how that started was, so when I was living in Kent, I was listening to a lot of BBC One Extra and the DJ Q show. I mean, DJ Q for me was a huge inspiration, and And it was around this time when like Disclosure was sort of coming around. You had like the new wave of garage, and so I felt really inspired by that and what Q was playing. And then I thought, well, I just want to start making some more garage just because I love it, and I just felt like I needed a change, and I'd achieved at the time what I'd done with grime, and I was happy with that. And then I made Hold On and Home, and so what actually happened was EZ played Hold On his Kiss FM show. Do you remember that? It was on Friday night, legendary. And Elijah always told me that him and Will, they were in the car on the way to a show, listening to the radio, and they heard that tune come on, and EZ bigged me up, said, new tune, Flava D, and they thought, what, is that the same Flava D, the grime Flava D? Sounds nothing like that person. So I think that's when that
must be a trip having EZ play your stuff. Like
it was,
like
yeah. When EZ played that, it was for me like the ultimate cosign. So yeah, I think it was just refreshing for them to hear something very different to what I'd made previously. And
so, how did they reach out to you? How did that, from hearing it on radio to?
I think it was like a week later. Elijah emailed me. And these times I didn't have a working phone. I had like a broken BlackBerry, and I think it was even 2 weeks later I replied. And he just reached out, said, I really like this tune. Is it signed? Be good to communicate. And I said, well, no, it's not signed. If you want it, you can have it. And then eventually we went from there. And a few weeks later we met at a boiler room, and then the rest was history.
That you were playing at?
Yeah. Quite a. We can talk about that later. Quite a funny night.
Should we listen to this track?
Yeah, let's do it.
Make some notes for that one.
Thank you. It's so weird hearing that, because I haven't actually sat and listened to that in years. It just takes me back every time.
You don't pull it out in DJ sets every once in a while?
No, I would if I was doing like a all-night set. I would put it in there, but it's definitely been a while since I've played it.
You kind of said that you felt like you'd done what you needed to do in grime. With the different kind of genres that you make, when you kind of move on to this garagey sound, is that like all you're making? That are you sort of quite compartmentalized?
Yeah, I've definitely been that way up until recently. The last 3 years, I'd say, with the drum and bass. But yeah, beforehand, I was very I'm going to do grime, and it was just grime. I'm going to do garage, and now I'm doing like bassline, bass house, whatever. And I think like I've only recently learned that sort of when I do focus on one thing, I will get good at it. But if I put too many eggs in my basket, it's quite hard to maintain it and be consistent. So yeah, it's the constant battle.
Yeah, and do you think sort of like, is it just that you get bored and you kind of want to move to a new sound? Is it?
A little bit. I'm still learning about my personality type. I'm like, am I ADHD? But I don't know. I can be quite impulsive. I go through different hobbies. I go through different trends, different this, that, everything. And I think that plays into my music a bit as well. So no matter what I'm doing, I do like change, but in a way where I think it will complement what I do, rather than just doing something too crazy.
And how is it transitioning from working with MCs or vocalists to your own solo production? Was that like a relief, like, just finally I can just do me now and not have to worry about,
you know what?
Even getting shouted out in the track,
Well, it definitely was a different. So when I started doing garage and I was getting played more, I noticed that it wasn't like so hard, because it was mostly Logan Sama back then, or you had like DJ Cameo, and or, you know, you had your smaller stations, but for me, I wanted to get that Kiss FM play or the one extra. So when I started making Garage, there was so many different avenues and stations I could get played and heard on with like a bigger platform. So I was like, oh, well, you know, this is less pressure for me. I have more output, and when I make a tune, I finish it. All I've got to do is send it out, and if they play it, great. I don't have to go through the back and forths of a vocalist doing
First
that.
time release, how did you get it to EZ?
Blimey, what was it? Just email.
Right.
Yeah, well, back then it was MySpace, and then it was Twitter, and then, just email. He would never tell you if he was going to play it. You'd have to listen, and then you'd hear it.
You later did a track called A Letter to EZ.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, no, that was Q's idea.
And I'm assuming you've probably shared many a stage with him by now and sort of...
What, EZ?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few times when he's played before me or after, and yeah, it's always like a pleasure to hand over the decks to him or vice versa, because no matter what, he's always going to be a legend to me.
Yeah. So can we go to that boiler room where you met Eliza Skilliam? And,
yeah.
So am I right in thinking that you were like, I'm not even sure how to DJ? like.
Yeah. Talk about a first gig. So
that's a crazy first gig to do.
Yeah, it was actually. So
straight in the lion's den.
When I started making Garage, so about a year and a half after, I started getting like emails or, you know, from DJ Cameo or DJ Q saying, can you come in for a guest mix? And I said, I can't I don't know how to DJ, I can't, I'm not ready. So they'll just say, well, when you're ready, let me know. And then, so not long after the Hold On, sort of when I got talking to Eliza and Skilliam, I got an email saying, would you like to do a boiler room? It's going to be like a Butters thing, big lineup, good opportunity. And I was like, okay, well, maybe if I can come into Rebel Studios a week before, I didn't know I'd never used a CDJ in my life at this point.
A week before?
Yeah, and I didn't even know what a boiler room was. And I went into Red Bull and I said, so what's a boiler room then? And he said, well, there's a camera, you're just DJing, downplayed it. And so, yeah, I was like, okay, well, let me get familiar. I had like a couple hours with the CDJ and thought I was ready. So then a week later, it's the boiler room night, and it's all these people there. It's like gridlock in the room and really intense, but such an electrifying atmosphere. But I was also like, what have I got myself into? And to be honest, the set, it was horrendous. It was really bad because I was clanging left, right, and centre, and I was learning as I was mixing, basically. And then I got my friend at the time, I thought it'd be a good idea to get her on the mic and host, and she wasn't a host. But anyway, so you live and learn. But that was the night I met all the boys for the first time, met Royalty, Swindle, and Madam X, a whole bunch of people that are still my friends today. And yeah, that for me was really like the start of something special. And
I guess, did that give you the bug to kind of, right, there's something here, and take the DJing on more seriously? Yeah,
definitely. So I went home that night and thought, okay, I really have to learn to use a CDJ for a start and structure my sets and get my stuff mastered properly as well.
So what did that journey look like? Is it similar to production where you just taught yourself, or?
What do you mean?
Like the DJing, the like sort of like path into DJing.
Yeah. So after that, the boys said, you know, do you want to come on our Rinse FM show? It's the Butters show. It's every Sunday. And I said, yeah, why not? And it would be a good place for me to get more familiar with the decks. And again, so I was basically practicing live on air. So yeah,
you like to make it difficult.
Really high pressure. I know. That was all my practice. And then I did get my first paid booking that my then agent Max, who is still my agent now actually. So a lot happened in these 4 months after that boiler room that sort of cemented like the team that we still are today.
And I'm sure most people know, but you've been part of Butters ever since. Sort of like people that you produce with, people you work with, your management. Just from an outside looking in, it feels very much like a family vibe. I would say it's safe to say.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, they're like the older brothers I never had. So yeah, we look out for each other.
Yeah. So what's this next tune that you want to talk about, Danny J. Lewis?
So yeah, if it's a classic UKG song, Danny J. Lewis, who's a massive influence to my productions. It's Spend the Night, and it's just, if you're into your garage, then you know it's just a classic.
So would you say there was, through all of the sort of genres and phases, is there sort of producers who you kind of looked up to in their production style and maybe like took inspiration for, or there's a form of, you know, emulation or inspiration?
Yeah, massively. So this particular track that we just played, the breakdown in that, so when all the melodies come in, just that bit alone was like really what got me. For me, it's all about chords and the melodies and the way they're used. So a lot of my influence is sort of like Steve Gurley, Tough Jam, Todd Edwards, like MJ Cole especially, just because I really loved the way MJ would use his chords, and you know, just like the really skippy drums, even like early DJ Q. So there was a track that Q made called Brandy and Coke, and it's quite an old track. It's like, I feel like more people should know about it, but Hold On wouldn't exist if he hadn't made that. Yeah, right. And you can instantly hear like the similarity just from the drums, and the chords that are used as well. So yeah, it's for me, it's all about the skippy drums and the chord stabs.
It must be quite a trip, sort of starting out at grime and then working with Wiley, and then, you know, liking garage and get played by EZ, and you know, being influenced by people like that you DJ Q, like you end up working with. That must be. Yeah. Are you like ever in a room like, how did I get here with people I was, you know, so heavily influenced by, and or you know, maybe admired even. You know?
I've definitely had like pinch me moments where I think like it's so funny because I remember.
Give us a few pinch me moments.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, like, just
the hell am I doing?
DJ Q, for example, like, you know, when I was, because he was on One Extra for 7 years, I think, and he played a massive part. I remember being 16 in the same bedroom when I first took Ableton home that night from working in a record shop, and so we didn't really have internet like that, so I used to listen to One Extra on the TV through Sky, and it would be, you know, you see a little DJ Q on One Extra on the bottom, and yeah, just like, I still kind of have flashbacks to seeing my blue TV screen with his name, and then I'm like, he's telling me about this hi-hat or whatever, and it's just funny how the world works. But yeah.
So tell us, because obviously people are probably familiar with TQD, and tell us how that sort of collaborative process with DJ Q and Raw T kind of came about. Like how did that evolve from being label mates to actually collaborators?
So that actually started when we had a Butters sort of get together. It was in Red Bull Studios at the time, down in just by London Bridge, and so Mark and Q, they actually had already started working on a track, and that would have, so Day and Night, which is, we've got the vinyl down there, that's the track that they were working on, and I walked in mid session and I was like, oh, what's this? Sounds good. And they just said, oh, well, something we're working on. I was like, let me jump on. I was like, I've got this melody, let me lay it down. And then it was just started as like an accident, and something I'm surprised we never did before, but it started that day, and then eventually I think we just had a lot of fun and it happened naturally. And then they said, do you want to do your own version of this track we just made? So on the Day and Night vinyl, you've got the A side, and then on the B side, you got the night
mix.
Yeah, night mix. So the night mix is me taking all their stems and doing my own spin on it. So that was like the very first thing we ever did.
So there was like pinch me moments, but you were confident enough to be in the room going,
yeah, Yeah, because like we
My
at that
turn.
point, like me and Mark, we were like bro and sister. Like we're comfortable, and we'd already collaborated at that point. So yeah, it just happened really organically. The best way.
Let's have a listen to it. Sounds good on these speakers, huh?
Yeah, I'm actually impressed with that.
So you don't. It sounds like you don't. From each reaction, like I haven't heard this in years. It sounds like you don't revisit your discography.
Honestly, I think it's been about 6 years. I even surprised myself. I was like, "Oh, that's a good breakdown." That. Yeah. No. Wow. It's actually quite a decent track.
Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It did sound really nice on these speakers. So shout out to Danley.
Thank you.
So TQD, it didn't actually put out that many records, but you kind of smashed up the clubs and festivals for a while, right?
Yeah, we had quite a good couple years. So I think it's 2017, 2018 was a good year for us.
Yeah.
And we did our UKG album as well. So that was a lot of fun.
How did that sort of from going to? To be honest, working with MCs, I guess, is a collaborative process. But being in a room and making, was it all done in a room, or were you sending stuff?
It was a bit of half and half. So usually when we collab, it will be through email stems. Like we've got like a message group, so we message quite a lot actually. Even now, because Q's, he's in Huddersfield, Mark's in East London, I'm in South. So it is quite hard with everyone's schedules to be in the same place at the same time. So we will start the idea, maybe get it to 50%, and then what we'll try and do is get a studio session all together, and then we'll try and wrap up that track.
Was it quite a fluid process, or was there some headbutting and
no, surprisingly,
ego clashing?
We work quite well. The only things we'll squabble about is like, oh no, this hi-hat needs more high-end, or no, that's a shit snare, or something, like little things like that. But mostly we're always on the same page. And something, if one of us is like feeling like something's lacking, we know that, say, Mark or Q, they're going to add something and be like, oh yeah, that's what it needed. So I think that's why we work really well together.
Why is the discography between you three quite small?
Do you think? Well, I mean, all I can say is that we've been working on a lot of music.
On solo stuff?
No, TQD.
Oh, new stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's going to change soon. I think, because we were doing... I know, that's a little teaser there. Yeah, I think because we had our individual careers going as well, and so we're just trying to manage... So like Flava D, TQD, and Royalty, DJQ, doing our own things without compromising our own direction elsewhere. And I think we wanted to just have this album, promote the album, and have fun with it. It was never really intended to be like the big thing that it turned into. It was more, we're all mates, let's have some fun, make some music, and get some shows, and then it just sort of exploded from there.
So we're going to listen to a track off the TQD album, UKG. Which one are we going to do?
Maybe, should we do A Letter to EZ?
A Letter to EZ.
So that's
A, B1.
B1, yeah.
I'm so worried about this really expensive turntable. I've been told how expensive it is, and sorry, Colleen. So this album was 2017.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think when that like DJ EZ Boiler Room came about, where his sort of there's like a renewed interest in.
The one that went viral when.
Yeah.
That that was the same boiler room of the night I met all the boys.
Oh, was it?
And my horrendous set. Yeah, that was it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because it was me. Then it was Tough Matt Jam Lamont, and then it was EZ. So a lot happened that night.
Wow. Okay, that's making sense. I mean, the reason I kind of brought it up is because throughout your career, I guess there's sort of like, I mean, EZ, things come in circles, right? Like EZ's sort of popularity and
the age of social media.
The age of social media came back, and then grime kind of had a resurgence with people like Skepta and Stormzy becoming household names. But it kind of felt like you've just always not really cared. You just done what you kind of just do.
I'm
right?
glad it comes across that way. I think like over the years, with or without, gigs and the things that come with, the industry, I would still be that person in my bedroom making beats, regardless, because it's just sort of who I am and what I need to do to keep myself sane. So, and I think like because I just have a love for all different types of music, naturally, I would always want to try and do different things anyway.
Do you ever feel sort of pressure to like follow a trend or make a certain thing, or are you quite good at just blocking that out and just still being that,
I think
16-year-old in your bedroom making tunes?
Yeah, I do think I do have a good way of sort of blocking out like those external pressures, and just because of how I am anyway. Like I don't know, I find it very important to be true to myself and just not make something because it's expected of me. I'm quite like rebellious in that way. If someone wants me to do something, if I feel I have to do it, then I'm not going to do it. So I will go left. And so that maybe, I don't know if that works with what I do, but it's just not the way I'm inclined.
How much of sort of factor do you think like being in the clubs is? Because there's always this talk of like within media, like, oh, garage is making a comeback, or grime's making a comeback, drum and bass is making a comeback, jungle is making a comeback. But often, because you've toured quite extensively and been in clubs, festivals, often, well, actually, there's kids in clubs listening to this all the time. Just because the media is suddenly talking about it doesn't mean it's now cool again. It's not like people aren't raving to this, And you're probably at the front line of kind of just seeing the music of I hate the term, but UK-based music and all its incarnations kind of still being relevant to, kids wanting to rave.
Yeah, it's a weird one because social media is definitely changing a lot, especially in the last 5 years. The amount of times I've heard that this is making a comeback, and the same times people saying this is dying out, but it's still kind of there. And all different kinds of genres. So it's a hard one just because like everything is moving very fast, especially today. Like the audience has changed a bit. I think people's attention spans are shorter, and everything's kind of dominated by, who's got the viral song right now, whatever's viral on TikTok. Oh, that's what it is. So it's a funny time.
I saw this amazing post by Swindle, not claiming that he's part of it, but saying that people say, oh, UK drill is dead now.
Yeah, I saw that.
But saying that, it's just like journalists and people on Twitter giving their commentary, but you're saying, oh, it's old news, but that's like a lot of people's livelihoods, and maybe only 5 artists in a certain genre in grime or whatever will make it, and then by doing that and sort of chastising it, you're killing a whole genre of potential artists who are trying to make careers in this. And the sort of fickleness of it all. It's something that do you feel you've seen it with some of the genres that you work in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, over the past few years, even just bassline, and even now, I get a lot of people say, "Oh, I miss 2015 bass house," and it was a really great time. I'm not going to lie, just in terms of when. It was kind of like speed garage meets Jack and House / slow down aggressive bass house. I don't know. It's if you were there, then and it was sort of less saturated. And obviously today, things are a bit more on the screamy end of bass, as some people would say, and people keep saying that maybe this sound's going to die out, it's already dying out, but it's weird because when you go in the clubs, people are still raving out to it. But, you know, there's DJs playing the sound, they're still selling out nights and playing big venues. So it's just, you have to go out to the nights and see it and feel it for yourself. And
often that's maybe just like 100 journalists saying, "Oh, this is over and this is new."
Yeah.
Wouldn't not actually reflect what's happening in clubs all around the UK.
Exactly.
So what's this next one we're gonna go into?
So that is In the Dance. So that was probably one of my most prolific releases that came out on Formula Records. I think that was 2016 or 2015.
How does it feel listening back to this? Because it seems like you're like, I haven't heard this in ages.
Yeah, well, actually, you just played the VIP. So this was actually the amount of times I've had people ask, "Oh, I want the Q VIP of In the Dance," because I posted it one day. Q said, "Can you make me my own special?" And I said, "Okay, then, just for you, I'll do it." So we exchanged VIPs one day, and so people thought Q had actually made that VIP out of my original, but it's actually his VIP. Anyway, funny story, but
that's the problem when you play white labels. You have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite funny listening back to that because that was around when I started really paying attention to my mix downs. So even Hold On Home, like my first vinyl, and anything I had made prior to that, not a single tune have I added compression, EQ. No, it's terrible, and I don't know how I got so far without it. I didn't know what mixing down was until In the Dance, because
just went straight from Ableton to a mastering engineer without any sort of
anything played on radio was not mastered. It was straight export from my PC.
Wow.
And yeah, honestly, it blows my mind. It worked, but I think like the standards is a lot higher these days. You know, if I had sent those same tunes today, would they get played? I don't know. But so Champion, who released In the Dance, he's quite the mixdown wizard, and he taught me a lot about just mixing down your sub and your drums and making it work, and that really changed a lot for me and my productions that followed.
Do you think the sort of like learning curve of a producer can hit different plateaus where you like, there's like a level of frustration where like do you think you've seen many different sort of like learning curves of upwards as well as sort of plateaus where feeling stuck? Like what's the sort of advice on powering through those bits where you plateaued and maybe feel stagnant, and to reach a sort of like next level of the next level of your craft personship?
Well, in today's world, thankfully, there is a lot of online content that wasn't sort of during the days when I really could have had that. Thankfully, I did have like Champion mostly to show me the way. But I mean, there's been times, especially now that I'm making drum and bass, I thought I was pretty good until I started learning D&B. And my God, you have to rewire your brain, because if you're making house or garage, it's all about the big kick and the sub. But D&B, it's about the small poppy kick with the gigantic sub. So you're kind of doing it back to front. And my God, just the drums alone in D&B, you could spend 2 days on that and getting it right. And
the sort of like sound design and
yeah, it's just another level. I think if you can get good at D&B or dubstep, you could probably make anything sound good. And it's really leveled me up as a producer.
So quite surprisingly, when we spoke yesterday, and I was like, is there like an influence track? And you actually referenced Jay Dilla as someone who you said influenced sort of your approach to drum and bass, which I was...
Oh, no, not drum and bass.
Oh, sorry, I think I
my
misunderstood.
chords.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Jay Dilla, because I was a massive hip-hop fanatic, like Jay Dilla, Pete Rock, mostly like the way they would sample and their chords, things like that. So you can hear a lot of that in my garage, I feel.
Okay. Can we line up the Jay Dilla track? I think we've picked Won't Do.
Won't Do, yeah.
So is there a particular significance of Won't Do to you as like a listener for fan?
Yeah, I see with Won't Do, I fell in love with, it's got that like flangey sort of synthesizer-y melody in that tune, and I became really fascinated about how did he achieve that melody, and even just like the chords in it, like that soulful, jazzy influence. That I honestly, I wish there was a YouTube tutorial back then on how he did it. But yeah, it just made me look at melodies in a different way.
Yeah. You got one, that's cool. Nowadays everybody got two. That'll do, but I need another one. Yep, I need another one. And a two is not enough for me, no. Line them up for you, nigga. 1, 2 is not enough for me, no. 1 won't do, 2 is not enough for me, no. 1 won't do, and 2 is not enough for me, no.
I'd recommend reading a book called Dilla Time, which is a book just released by Dan Charnas, who's a professor at New York University, about sort of the sort of loose rhythm he does. With many people, the book argues that people say it's like unquantized, but it's a mix of straight and swung, and that sort of...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what makes it his style, isn't it? I definitely have to read that.
So is I guess when Flava D is at home, I'm assuming it's not always like drum and bass and bassline stuff.
No.
I guess what does your kind of home record collection look like and your home listening?
Oh God, it's all over the place. I mean, if I could tell you all the different sounds that came out of my childhood home, but more so like my auntie. So I had a family up in Birmingham, and so they had more knowledge of sort of UK garage. I think, yeah, so my auntie, she always had like Zed Byers, Tough Jam CDs on. And then my mum would always have like Ferry Corsten, Trance, Euphoria.
Really?
Yeah. Head Candy, all that stuff. My dad was very indie, like Crowded House, Oasis, Jamiroquai. And then my cousin was like Cypress Hill, Lauryn Hill. Cypress Hill, yeah. Just very, very old school, like Foxy Brown, and then Prodigy. So it's like this conjumbled mess of all these great sounds, and it has literally molded me into who I am today.
Are your family quite supportive of or are they like, what are you doing? DJ and a producer?
No, actually really supportive. Yeah, I mean, I do have quite a small family. It's mostly just been me and my mum, and even when I did first get my PC when I was 16 and I got Ableton, I know there were moments where she would be knocking on my bedroom door and be like, Danny, what are you doing in there? You going to come out for dinner? And, you see your kid stuck on a PC screen every day, every night. And she was curious what I was doing on there. Yeah. But eventually I started showing her some music. And, she always believed in me from day one.
That must be great.
Yeah. Like I still thank Mum to this day for just being patient with me and not pressurizing me to sort of go out and get a job like I should have, because I was just being a hermit on beats. And yeah, so I really rate her for that.
Did you kind of have a stint of day jobs or unis, or was it kind of always just music? Or?
I did 1 year of music technology in college. So when I was just left school, so 16 to 17, I didn't do very well, if I'm going to be honest, because I was like this Channel U loving lady sovereign rude girl, like, over its jacket and all that. And I was stuck with a bunch of punk rockers, and everyone was into their rock music. So I was kind of like forced into this band to play electric guitar, and I just wanted to make grime.
I would love to see that, you playing electric guitar.
It was quite a contrast, but But I did get my first taster into Cubase, and so this was actually just before I got Ableton. So I kind of had like a rough understanding of, you know, like penciling a melody on a music software. And I never forget, actually, during one day in class, like, we had an assignment. It was to make something, and the teacher was quite impressed, and he made me go around showing the other students the melodies that I did, and it was quite weird. And so I think at that day I thought, maybe I have got something, like maybe I could be good at this. And I think he saw something in me, and that also it gave me like a boost of confidence, I guess.
Yeah. The one thing, you know, kind of doing a bit of research into this is to put Flava D on YouTube, see what comes out. And there's so many production videos, and it seems to come quite natural to you. Like, is there a sort of thought process when you're doing it, you know, with the melodies and the rhythms that you come up? Because it does just seem you're very at one with it.
Yeah, I guess I am quick with what I do. I think I thought everyone was kind of like that until I'd made beats in front of people and they said, oh, you're quite fast. So I think that is just all the years of me just knuckling down and practicing what I do. And, you know, when I'm into it, I get so hyper-focused that I have the vision in my head and I have to rush and get it out as quick as possible. I don't know who I'm racing, but yeah, I don't know. That's just how I do it, really.
I kind of, you know, everyone's probably seen the fat 10-minute against the clock, and then I saw like a 5-minute one where you did like 4 different genres at 5 minutes.
The crowdsourced boiler room.
And the crowdsourced one, my friend Massey runs that. It's just like, it's just impressive. So I guess kind of, you've recently, a lot now with Hospital, and kind of entered this drum and bass era. So can you talk about the progression into that? Are you getting bored going, I'm going to do something new now?
It was a little bit. It was more like I was satisfied with where I was and what I'd done at that time. So we just sort of finished the TKD 2 years that we had, and that was fun. And also, I think one day I ended my set with some drum and bass, just like the last 10 minutes. And I remember being like, oh, that was really, really fun.
Energy.
Yeah, like just a different level of energy. And I thought, because of the way I am, like anyone can draw for like the 10 big tunes that's going to go off. Like it's an easy merc. But I like to have my own thing that goes off. And so I thought, I want to start making my own drum and bass. And not just for like the shows, but also because I love drum and bass. I've been a long time listener, and I just thought, well, this is something new and it could be exciting. So 2018 was when I've got signed by Hospital, and so this is actually my first proper release. So this came out last year.
Are we going to do All We Ever Do?
Yeah, All We Ever Do. So that's probably my favourite D&B release yet. So I made that in lockdown. And it's just quite a special track to me. It's just because it's got the message in it, and you know, everyone was going through life at that time, and it just kind of takes me back to one of those tunes that I sort of made for me. I never thought it would go out into the big world, and it happened really organically with the vocal as well, and it's just something I'm proud of.
Did you ever just love somebody so much and everything you do is never enough, and all we ever do is turn it up? Or do you ever just want someone to get close to just laugh at the pressure that we go through? Cause all of this don't mean much. No.
Did you ever feel love? Did you ever feel lost? Simply was it real forever? Maybe was it real lost?
Presumably with drum and bass you are doing mix downs now.
Yes, yeah. I mean, everything that I do now, I do mix down. The odd track, if I just literally am having a headache with the kick and the bass, I'll be like, oh, can you just fix that? But generally, yeah, I mean, all of that was mixed down by myself.
With these different sort of stages of your musical output, do you find there's a difference between this? I mean, to be honest, you still kind of do Flava D, but do you find there's a difference between like the interactions and the sort of the scene between like drum and bass as opposed to grime, and Have you noticed quite considerable differences, and if so, what are they?
Yeah, massively. So with D&B especially, it is like you are walking into a different world, and the way you mix in your sets is different. Like you have to come with, like when I'm doing like garage Flava D and D&B Flava D, it is two different people, and I do approach it very differently. So only in the last sort of year and a half with my D&B, I've got comfortable with mixing and doing combos, double drops. Yeah, because I feel like you kind of have to. You've got to respect the culture, and that is kind of how you get your respect. It's anyone going to have the same tunes, but how you execute it is how you earn your stripes. And it's also changed a bit how I mix in garage now, because I want to double drop garage, and it's like, so it just makes me want to approach it differently. And even mixing in with key, something I never even paid attention to actually until lockdown. And with D&B, it's not everyone does it, and it doesn't make you a bad DJ if you don't, but it definitely does complement your mix and make it sound better. And it's just little things that I never thought of before that D&B has made me think about.
Have you, I guess you've even kind of said it through your own journey, there's like earning your stripes and earning respect within, grime and especially in often quite a male-dominated industry. You often like, here I go again, new genre, got to like earn respect of like, the sort of the I wouldn't call them gatekeepers, but the sort of the powers that be.
Yeah, I love that though. I love being the underdog and like being small, and like I like climbing, and yeah, for me it's part of the fun of the journey.
Yeah. So what's kind of like next in the Flava D? Because Elijah very much pointed out this is definitely not like, let's look at the history of Flava D. This is kind of still very much at height of your career.
It's so still well, I still feel like I'm in the beginning, which is weird. So I'm 10 years in now, I guess, and in terms of like touring and stuff. But I still feel like I'm about to start a whole new chapter, and it's especially with D&B. I mean, the world is so big in that genre, and it's moving so fast. And yeah, I'm actually working on my debut album, so that's exciting. That's going to be a drum and bass album. And so 2023.
So new TQD.
New TQD. So yeah, next year there's going to be a lot of...
Was this like lockdown productivity?
No, this is just this year.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Just 2022 alone.
Nice. Okay. Everyone, please give it up. Make some noise for
Thank
Flava
you.
D. So, if there's any questions in the crowd, please let us know, and we'll pass the microphone to you. Don't be shy. You go.
Hi.
Hey.
I just want to say you've really inspired me. Like, I've been listening to you since I was 16. I'm 23 now.
Oh, thank you.
You put me onto UKG and a bunch of other UK genres, so I really thank you for that. One question I wanted to...
Thanks.
One question I wanted to ask you was, where you are at this point in your career, is producing something that's kind of spontaneous for you, or do you feel like at this point you've built up a sort of like fixed workflow or scheduling to it?
I would say it is a bit of half and half, because, there's always a deadline that I've got to meet on something, whether it's a remix or... Even just lately, I've actually been having fun collaborating, and so there's a lot of new people coming in the garage scene, especially that I'm really into, and there's a lot of female producers now that wasn't around years ago, and I've been sort of wanting to just collaborate with the upcomers more, and people that have said that they looked up to me, and it's really exciting because some of them, they're now inspiring me to produce and influencing my style, so that's quite mad. Just going forward, I want to just do more collaborations, and I think just always have fun with it, and don't always treat it like, just the business side of it, and just do it because that's genuinely what I love doing, is making music.
Cool. Do you think I could send you some of my stuff?
Yeah, of course.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Hey,
Hello.
what advice would you give for any new female producer coming into a very male-dominated industry?
I would say there's going to be a lot of pressure to have your own music and quick. And I think, ghost producing does go on a lot. I think if you are willing to just put in the hard work and study for a year or two, and there's so much online content now. There's like Splice, there's YouTube tutorials, there's all these different platforms that can help you right from scratch. I think just sometimes maybe whoever you're feeling, like whoever's inspiring you production-wise, try and copy their tune in a way just from a practicing perspective, and then start adding your own style to it. And I think naturally that's how your own style will come from that, because I even started doing that back in the day. Who was I copying? DJ Q. Yeah. But it's just a hard one. I think it is important to just give it time, be patient with the process, and don't feel like if you haven't got your own productions right away that it's not going to happen. You might take 2 years, but it's just a journey.
So thanks everyone. This has been Producer Pioneers, a collaboration between Classic Album Sundays, Resident Advisor. Shouts again to Danley Sound Lab and Audio Technica. And once again, give it up to Flava D, please.
Thank you. Big love.